flowers. Don't eat them. Guys, I was just waiting a little bit here, trying to make sure that no parts of the video are cut off. Welcome, welcome. It is hump day. It is hump day, right? Is it? I've lost track of the days. Oh, it's hump day. Just double checking, letting some more people join us here. I have some very interesting news to share. I know that in the Idaho 4 case, we have talked heavily about fraternities. Fraternities are insane. If you have been part of a fraternity or a sorority, please let me know down in the comments. I'm not going to go into my personal experience. All I'm going to say is that I went to lots of universities, including George Washington University, a lot of fraternities, a lot of sororities, a lot of crazy things, illegal, dangerous activity going on. And we know that in this Idaho 4 case, there was the 4chan theory of the angry frat boys, right? The angry frat boys who supposedly took steroids and they had shriveled testes and they were very angry. They were in a roid rage. And interestingly, I watched a video not too long ago. It's a doctor. His name is Israel. What is his last name? I'll pin it when I find his name. And he was talking about when he is on roids, he roid rages, okay? He gets very angry and he has these uncontrollable, violent thoughts. Thank goodness this man was so honest to share that point of view, because I think a lot of people who use roids don't want to share that aspect. Studies also show, and personal experience of a lot of people who have abused roids, that violence, that like instinct to want to unalive somebody is there. So it is a plausible theory. That being said, I wanted to share this article with you guys, and it's titled "Ex-Frat Leader Sentenced in Hazing Death of Penn State Student." So this just happened, guys, this month here in Penn State, and this case, I remember this when the whole Abby and Libby case in Delphi, Indiana started. It was around the same time, if I'm not mistaken, like 2017. That's why I tell people, look, I know the world can seem quite dark, quite scary, quite crazy sometimes, but at the end of the day, you have to be positive and remember that eventually all the shit that people do, doesn't matter how dark and illegal it is, it will come to light, guys. And in this case, it was very unfortunate because it was the death of a 19-year-old man, right? 19 years old from New Jersey, Timothy Piazza. His life just gone, just like that, due to these fraternities. And we had to wait this long, from 2017 till now, for the family, for all of us to get justice for Timothy, right? Because Brendan Young, now 28 years old, and Daniel Casey, 27-year-olds, they're going to spend 2 to 4 months in prison. Is that justice? Is that justice? Now, I'm going to get into what the roles were in the death of Timothy Piazza, but they basically hazed Timothy, right? And you have to understand that now in some states, there are newer legislations that have been passed that if you are found to be part of any of that hazing and that leads to somebody getting sick or ending up in the hospital or ending up dead, you're going to be held liable for that. So these rules were not in place in 2017. That's why these 2 men involved in the death of this young man are only having to do 2 to 4 months in prison. And I think it's fucking bullshit. That's what I really think. I mean, pardon my French, but these 2 men were the leaders of the Beta Theta Pi chapter at Penn State when Timothy Piazza's pledge went off the rails, basically. They made him consume massive amounts of alcohol. Like, basically, all of these pledges to frats, to sororities, you're hurting yourself, and the odds of you coming out alive are, in my opinion, very small, because there a lot of these sororities, frats, are telling you have to chug like 24 beers in like 30 seconds, something stupid like that only like an 18, 19-year-old would do, right? And he consumed these massive amounts of alcohol, and then on top of that, he fell. He suffered several falls and had a lot of injuries after that. And it also involved 13 other pledges. I don't even want to go into detail about what other pledges he had to do, because a lot of them have to do with reckless endangerment, sometimes hurting themselves. And they had been charged, Mr. Young and Mr. Cassie, with involuntary manslaughter and aggravated assault and a felony, but then they were very quickly dismissed. So it just shows you guys how powerful these chapters are, these fraternities are, because they very quickly will run. They will run. They're not walking, they're running to protect these kids from hazing, because they don't want to be on the freaking news, because then that gives the fraternities a bad name, that gives the chapters a bad name, and that just gives the university a bad name, a bad vibe. And when parents see that on the news, they're less likely to allow the child to enter a university when somebody just died because of hazing and manslaughter and assault, right? So crazy. I want to know what you guys think about this. Is it fair that Timothy Piazza's parents have to live with this type of justice, where these two men got 2 to 4 years, almost 7 years later? 7 years later. Is that justice? Is that justice? Nothing is ever going to undo the harm that Tim suffered 7 years ago. Nothing is ever going to undo that. Nothing is ever going to bring Tim back to life, to his parents. That's done and over with, right? But at the very least, I would personally want the parents to have actual justice. Like, why are they not putting these men in jail? Again, I already explained why. It's because these more strict laws were not in place at the time. The anti-hazing law was not passed until 2021 in New Jersey. So I don't know. I wanted to just point this out, because they did not find Tim. This always makes me very emotional. They didn't find Tim until like the following morning. By the way, it's a cold February morning when they found him, after the night of hazing. I'm not even sure who reported him, but I have a feeling it was not probably somebody from the chapters, probably not somebody from the frat. It was probably a random stranger. They got some help, and then days later, he died of damage to his liver, his brain, his spleen. And not only that, but there's actually video evidence, guys. And that is crazy to me, to think that these two idiots, these fucking Young and Casey, recorded this shit. These frat leaders recorded that shit. And we still have no justice for Tim, right? You're going to tell me that these guys went up to him, you know, with a closed camera circuit, record Tim's face, passed out, injured, laying on the ground, unaided. There's nobody coming around to his aid. They're literally just recording. And all the people around him didn't seek help for more than 12 hours. This is bogus. This reminds me of the Noah Pressgrove case, right? And Noah Pressgrove was not in a fraternity. But still, the fact that he's surrounded by so many people that were supposedly his friends and nobody called. And then, of course, Mr. Tim fell, hit his head down the steps, and it just got worse from there. So Mr. Piazza, Jim Piazza, is the father of Tim, and he was questioned recently, interviewed recently, because they said, well, what do you think about, you know, this sort of accountability, these 2 to 4 months that these guys are going to have to do in jail? What do you think? And he said he thought that the sentences were reasoned and fair, given the charges at hand. And he said that he had doubts about whether Mr. Young and Mr. Casey felt remorse. While the defendants made nice speeches, one of which came with no emotion about how they have changed, they still didn't answer to the many questions of why. I do hope they learn from this matter and will eventually use that knowledge to do better in their lives and help us in our fight to eradicate hazing. And when I look up these two guys, I'll try to pin it in the thumbnail. They just don't look guilty at all, And it just, for some reason, reminds me of Dylan Morrison and Bethany Funk, because from what I have seen, they just don't show any guilt at all. These two survivors, right? Survivors in quotes. I know I'm gonna get shit for that, but they don't seem to show any guilt. This is something that should be looked into. What do you guys think about fraternities? What do you think about sororities? What do you think about hazing? What do you think about all the protection that these sororities, these fraternities, these universities, these chapters get in the courtroom? Are literally protected. You're telling me that I could go haze someone or force someone to haze themselves to death and just go to jail for 2 months? Oh my God. I mean, if there's fucked up people out there, because there are fucked up people out there, I could see them taking advantage of that situation. I'm just saying, don't do it, but there's fucked up people out there. I've never heard of somebody killing someone and going to jail for 2 months. So I am sorry for your loss, Jim Piazza and his wife, Mrs. Piazza. I hope to God that one day you actually get true justice. And I hope that this hazing, I hope that these fraternities, that these chapters are actually eradicated off the face of the earth, because from what I personally experienced, there's no use to have fraternities. They are completely pointless. I know a lot of people say, it's about brotherhood, man. It's about sisterhood. No, it's about excluding people. It's about exclusivity. And it's about hazing, and it's about doing dangerous shit that 18-year-olds don't have the mental capacity. You know, their brain hasn't fully developed. We don't need them. So I'm for getting rid of fraternities. Just get rid of them. Just get rid of them, guys. So that's it for the day. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. If you have heard about this case, let me know in the comments. And do I have anything else to pass? Nope, I think that's it. You guys have a good night. Take care.